Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Deep Conversations Only. We are coming after a long break, but I'm so delighted that we are coming back with Gayatri Uptaker. And she is an emotional wholeness coach, a mental space psychologist, a dear friend, and somebody who's been in the field for 10 years and has been helping people, teens, parents, and individuals deal with the variety of emotions that we go through on a regular basis, be it anger, anxiety, helplessness, grief, and a lot more. And in today's episode, we are going to discuss trauma, which is something I deeply wanted to discuss with her, and I'm sure that this episode is going to be one of the life changing episodes for you. So stay tuned. Hey Gayatri, I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Surbhi, for having me here. I am so excited to begin this conversation with you. And I must say, I really like the name of your podcast, Deep Conversations Only.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so powerful.
Thank you, thank you. I think it's something which resonates with both of us. Like no small talks, only deep conversations, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So, the first thing that I'd like to ask you is, of course, that how did your journey begin as, an emotional wholeness coach, and where did it all begin?
Okay. Uh, I was working in a corporate basically, and I had no plans of becoming a coach or anything. And I think it all began with that diagnosis of clinical depression uh, in 2008. And that's when I started seeking out help. And this was a time when nobody was talking about mental health. And when I went to the psychiatrist, he put me on medication and a series of counseling sessions. And I found that with the medication, my brain would just go numb, and there were a lot of side effects of the medication also. They would make me feel better, but they would also put me in a state wherein I wasn't feeling anything anymore. And the counseling sessions also didn't quite help me. So I became curious about what's happening within my brain, what is really happening inside, and I wanted to learn and understand what's really happening. And I think that's when my interest towards psychology, towards narrative therapy, towards EFT, and all of these alternative modalities started increasing. And I started reading a lot. I attended workshops and learned a lot, especially cognitive behavioral therapy, neuro linguistic programming, narrative therapy, all these different modalities. And as I did it, and as I spoke to a lot of people around me, especially women, I understood that there were a lot of these emotions that we as a community are suppressing within ourselves. We are not having a safe space to open out and share, and we don't learn how to process these emotions, how to regulate our emotions. And when I went back to my own childhood, I realized that there were a lot of moments when I used to have these emotional outbursts, like anger, self-harm, throwing things, harming others as well. So and all this was just considered as acting out. Like nobody really thought that this needs help, or she needs to be guided by somebody, but it was all about your acting out, or it is just your teenage hormones and those kind of stuff. So somewhere all these personal experiences and the knowledge that I gained through the workshops, through the reading, through learning, I think I wanted to bring both of that together. And I wanted to contribute, I wanted to share, and I wanted to tell people that it's okay, you have a safe space and you can learn how to navigate through your emotions. Because whenever I heard people speak about emotions, they would just speak about it in a negative way, in a not so useful way, saying that, oh my god, I just feel so sad, I don't want to feel sad, or that I'm feeling angry, I don't want to feel angry, I don't want to be in this grieving period or something like that. And I wondered that why are we not comfortable with these emotions? These emotions are there for a purpose. So why not learn how to work with them, how to navigate through them, how to understand them? So I think that's where the journey began. And then I like kind of started calling myself as an emotion coach, wherein I want to bring that awareness that our emotions exist for a purpose, and it's important for us to learn about them and to understand them.
Wow. I mean, the perspective on emotions and how emotions have a purpose, and rather than getting rid of them, just accepting them and understanding why they are there and what are they trying
Yeah.
to, reveal to us. I think that's a very, very powerful perspective. And only from the first question that I asked you, I think I've already gotten an aha moment. So I don't know what will come forth. But you're somebody who has tried both the conventional ways of counseling and
Yeah.
taking medications, and who is somebody who has also tried alternative therapies. And now
Yeah.
something which, like a question which strikes me is, what is the difference? Like,
Mhm.
how are these two things different from each other, and how they help, an individual in
Mhm.
different ways?
Mhm. Thank you for asking that. It's a question that many people ask me,
Yeah.
and I've been wondering as to how to frame it in a particular way and answer it. So thank you for asking me that question. So in the traditional way of counseling, or in a traditional way of psychiatry, psychiatry is basically where you get medication for the symptoms. Okay, so in psychiatry you're just managing the symptoms. Okay, so which is useful, because if you are having a very serious anxiety episode or a panic attack, or you're seriously having these mood disorders, then having some kind of medication really helps. It does help. Traditional counseling is, however, a little challenging space, because in traditional counseling, what you're basically doing is you're just reliving those past events. It's just like you're venting out your problems. What are your problems and what happened to you, and you're just sharing those things with the counselor. And many a times what happens is the counselor just comes with an advice as to what you need to do or what you could be doing. And many a times traditional counseling doesn't go deep into where the patterns are, where the challenges are. So many counselors are not specialized in treating trauma or treating your childhood patterns or uncovering those patterns and helping you understand and work through it. So it's very important when you are reaching out to a therapist or a counselor, ask them question, ask them what are they specialized in, what is their specialty, what do they deal with, and then check if that is something that you would want to explore. Yeah,
Yeah.
so if you want a space wherein you just want to vent out, you just want to remove the stress, you want a safe space where somebody is going to hear you out, then ask the counselor, is that counselor or therapist willing to do that for you? Are they specialized in doing that?
Yeah.
Then there are specialists who handle cases like suicidal thoughts and people who are having suicidal thoughts. So there are these helplines, toll-free numbers, wherein you have specifically trained people who can help you out in that emergency situation. Yeah, and then there is this third aspect wherein you have like coaches, specific coaches, like wherein you want to work on success, wherein you want to work with peak performances, emotions, relationships, sexuality issues. So you have specific coaches who are trained in specific areas. Like
Yeah.
my specialization is in emotions, so I work, so any challenge you have with processing emotions, feeling emotions, dealing and expressing emotions, then I specialize in that. So it's very important that these days there is awareness, and with awareness there is also this challenge as to whom do I reach out to.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's important that when you're reaching out to somebody, ask them what are they specialized in, and maybe have an initial call and ask them if your challenge is something that they can work with, and then go ahead with it. So
This,
that will
yeah.
be more powerful.
This is extremely insightful, because I think the awareness about taking help from people like coaches and counselors is increasing, but I think still we assume that every counselor or every coach can help you with
Yeah,
every emotion or every problem that you're going through, which is not the case clearly.
yeah,
So you pointing out that even before we start the journey, or we begin to take therapy or we begin to take coaching sessions for a long period of time, I think it is the best to ask the person that this is what I want to work on. Will you be able to serve me? And I think that's the
yes,
best way going forward. So this is
yeah,
a
yeah,
very, very powerful point to consider, that not every counselor, every therapist can solve every issue, right?
yeah,
And we all specialize in something, and we must look help from somebody who is equipped to help us, right? Otherwise, what happens? We do not trust the process because of our bad experience, and we might
yeah.
just dismiss the whole process, which is not what we want you to do. So I think the best case is to ask, and maybe get on a
Yes.
discovery call or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, very true. And even when clients come to me, reach out to me, I have this discovery call wherein I kind of have this 30-minute space where I understand what is their challenge. And if I feel that this is something that I cannot work with, I guide them to other people. So I have a resources list wherein I have a list of people who specialize in different areas. So
Wow.
I guide them to other people. So that's very important. Asking questions is very important,
Yeah.
because like you said, therapy or healing is not just one session or two sessions.
Yeah.
It is a process. It will take some months, at times it takes years to
Yes.
work on certain patterns. So it's important, it's a relationship that you're building with your therapist, with your coach, or with the
Yeah.
counselor. So it's
Yeah.
important that you take that time before you enter that journey. Take
Yes.
that time to understand the process, to ask questions, get things clarified, and then go ahead.
Yeah. Beautiful. Very nice. So, you've spoken about trauma a little here and there, saying, not everybody, not every counselor is trained to deal in trauma. So, I want to ask you, since I really wanted to share this topic with my audience, that what exactly is trauma? Because we've been seeing this a lot, we've been hearing about it a lot, especially on social media, especially the Gen Z
Yeah.
is becoming more and more aware, right? So, we really want to understand from the expert.
Okay, expert. That's a little a
Yeah.
pressure that you're building.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, so trauma again. So my thought process or my perspective about trauma is very different from what the traditional perspective of trauma is. So I feel that trauma is not only an event that has happened to you. Trauma is also how I experience that event,
Wow.
how I store that event in my brain, how I store the emotions related to that particular event in my mental space is trauma for me.
So
It's
powerful.
not just that, it's not just that event, because two people may process the same event in a very different way. Like me and my elder sister, we both grew up in the same environment.
Yeah.
We both had very different experiences, and we both look at our childhood in a very different way. Yeah. So it's very much important. It's a very subjective concept. So I don't think there is one definition of what trauma is.
Yeah.
However, what trauma may look like is especially in childhood, is if you have faced anything severe like physical abuse, or growing up in an environment which was very verbally abusive, wherein your parents or your caretakers or the adults in your life were verbally abusing you, physically abusing you, or there was a sexual abuse that happened while you were growing up. These are all very traumatic episodes for a child to process. Some other episodes could be like a death of a loved one, even a death of a pet, even death of your grandparents, your relatives. Even moving cities could be traumatic for children. Yeah. So basically what happens is, when you're a child, your prefrontal cortex is not developed. Yeah. So your thinking part of your brain is not yet developed. So any event that is emotionally charged up for you, and you're not able to process it, because obviously your brain is not equipped enough to process it as a child. So what happens is, when something very emotionally a very emotionally heavy event happens, a death or moving cities, moving schools, or even emotional neglect from parents. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when something like that happens, as a child, you're unable to process that, you're unable to understand that. So you internalize it in a particular way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you internalize it in a particular way, as you grow up, those internalizations, then you start projecting it in your life, you start projecting it in the outer world as you grow up. So
Yeah.
trauma is basically how you are internalizing those emotions in your life. I
Yeah.
personally feel that is trauma. And if I go by that perspective, I think each one of us has experienced some or the other kind of trauma.
Trauma.
Yeah.
Yes.
Trauma is a heavy word. You can also maybe want to say conditioning, like we've all
Yeah.
got some kind of conditioning as we are growing up. So a lot of being adult is about reprogramming ourselves, questioning this conditioning, questioning our beliefs, questioning as to, okay, what is really happening here, why am I behaving like this, from where did this behavior come. So a lot of adulting is about questioning yourself, reconditioning, reparenting yourself, and becoming that adult whom you wanted when you were a child.
Wow. Wow. So many powerful things. I think something which I absolutely love about you is whatever that you say comes out so authentically because you have processed everything so well within yourself that everything that you say it's just it just hits home every time for me. Like every time you say, I'm like, oh yes. Oh yes. This is it, this is it. This is what I was longing to hear. And I had a big breakthrough, I think last month, when I
Mhm.
was processing my my conditioning, and I realized that it wasn't what happened, it was how I perceived what happened. So it was
Yeah.
actually less about the people who were involved and what they were doing, right? And it was more about how I stored it. Again, as you said, that two individuals living in the same household having the same kind of experiences might store a particular memory in a completely different way, right?
Absolutely.
And it's so striking for me to just realize this. And I think from a spiritual perspective as well, later I would want to discuss this with you at some point, but I'll just give you a little insight into
Mm-hmm.
what I realized because it was so beautiful.
Mm.
I realized that the work that I'm doing today has evolved from whatever I've been through, right? And
Yeah.
whatever I've been through is not because of what happened from the outside, like from other people, but how I perceived it. So where did that perception come from? So I was thinking that how is it, because when you're a young child, it's not like you're already completely conditioned. You're still learning to form your own
Mm.
perspective, right? But to perceive that event in a way where it is traumatic to me and it might not be traumatic to someone else, right?
Mm.
Where was that perception created from at a very young age? Because so much of conditioning
Mm.
has not been there, right? But I realized that spiritually, if you understand, all of us, like, it's a concept which I believe in, which is of reincarnation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we are
Mm-hmm.
all carrying conditioning from the past, tendencies from the past,
Mm.
right? And the way we've seen our past lives is also how we see this life and the events of this life, right? And the way I perceived those incidents helped me to become the coach that I am today. And it was
Mm-hmm.
a very, like, purposefully given to me. So I realized
Mm.
this, that anything wasn't outside, it was my own perception that created that kind of
Mm.
that kind of memory and that kind of impact on me. And that was done so that I could become this person that I am today, by
Yeah.
God, because it was a gift and I could not realize it. And that was so powerful for me because finally I stopped looking outside, trying to fix outside
Mm.
and trying to, get a closure or an apology or, maybe have a conversation with someone, because I realized that what was the purpose of it. And,
Mm.
it was very little about the people involved and more about how I
Yeah.
perceived it. And when you
That's
said this, it just was so, like, deeply creating a resonance in my heart. So thank you so much for sharing. All right.
that's so deep, Surbhi. Uh, I mean, it's so grounding to hear that we all have our own experiences and we are here connecting them and trying to make sense of it, and realizing that all these experiences are gifts, and
Gifts.
how are we opening these gifts?
Exactly.
Are we opening it with anger, with these emotions that why did this happen to me, or are
Yeah.
we opening it with curiosity,
Yeah.
with what's in it for me,
We-
what's in it for the humanity, for the community?
Yeah.
How can I use this gift for others? How can
Yes.
I share it with others?
Yes.
And I think that mindset itself shifts so much.
Yeah.
And then I feel a strange sense of grounding when I look at my past from this lens.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. And for anybody who's listening, I want you to understand that it's okay to be in that phase where you're not able to consider the things that happened with you as gifts, and you are into that phase where you need closure and you feel that something bad has happened to you and someone has done it, right? It's absolutely okay. But through this conversation, what we're trying to bring you to is that eventually a phase will also come where you will realize that all of these things are gifts, right? But it's a process. And the other day when I was talking to Gayatri, that's what we thought, that healing happens in phases, and in every phase you feel that you're almost done and you're complete, heal and whole, and then yet another you have something and you suddenly realize that there's whole process that you need to do once again, right? So please realize that it's okay for you to feel all the emotions that you're feeling today, and going forward we will understand more of it, right? So Gayatri, thank you so much for sharing that. And now my question to you is that, okay, so now that we are adults, for the longest time I was living unconsciously through trauma. I didn't even realize that I had some problem, or I was holding on to something so deeply within my heart. But it was impacting my behavior, how I interacted with people, the kind of choices that I made for my career, my relationships, every aspect. So how do we understand if looking at our behavior today, that we've been impacted by trauma?
That's a tricky question. That's a very tricky question, because like you said, most of us are living at an unconscious space, because these kind of conditioning, this trauma or conditioning kind of happened to us when we were quite young. Yeah. So many of us don't even have those memories, clear memories of what happened. Many of us do have those memories, and for many of us, we are still living in such traumatic environments where there is still abuse going on, physical, emotional, or verbal abuse going on. We are living in environments which are not really useful for our growth. I mean, I'm living in a very safe neighborhood. So there may be people who are living in neighborhoods which is really not safe. There is a lot of violence going on, and it's not safe. So we are still going through such kind of events and environments also. So this question is quite tricky, because there are few things that you can notice, and you need guidance here. It's not that everybody has that sense of awareness and they will be able to question themselves and they'll be able to figure out, yes, exactly, this is where it was, and finally I kind of figured out. So you may need a little guidance there, and that's why you need a professional to kind of help you with. What you can become aware of is your behaviors, your specific behaviors, especially related to emotions. Do you cry quite frequently, and you kind of sense an emptiness? You feel sad quite often. You're unable to process your emotions. Like if somebody says something, you're kind of getting triggers. You're getting triggered because of that. So maybe some people's tonality sometimes makes us triggered. So I believe that our triggers are our teachers. If we are curious about, okay, so I got triggered about that person's voice, so what is it? And then you kind of connect it to your childhood. Oh, my dad used to speak like this. Okay, so that critical tonality is there in my head, and that's why my boss's tonality kind of irritates me. So you kind of understand those patterns.
Yeah.
And for that you need a very high level of
Awareness.
awareness. Yeah. Many people, we are just living life just like that. We are not building moments of awareness. And right now, with
Absolutely.
all that's been happening around us, with social media, with so much of information overload that's happening, I think awareness and attention is something that's become very expensive now.
Very, very expensive.
Yeah. So so that's why I really love the name of your podcast, Deep Conversations Only, because in an era of reels wherein we only have 15 seconds and 30 seconds to grab somebody's attention, we are here talking deeply about these concepts. So it's so important to get back to those
Yeah.
deep conversations.
Yes.
So coming back to our question, yeah, so there has to be a level of awareness that needs to be developed. So I would recommend that you do a weekly audit. Yeah, so like how we have auditors, the
Yeah.
same way we do audit of our own lives, our own mental spaces. So maybe weekly once you can decide to check in with yourself. Okay, so what are some of the emotions that I experienced in this week, and what has been repetitive? Yeah, so what is happening
Yeah.
again and again? Uh, Maybe you find it challenging to relate with some of your colleagues at work, or you find it challenging to relate with your friends or family. So anything that's happening which is kind of stopping you from living your life fully, I think that's where you need to pay attention to. Okay,
Yeah.
so you want to change your job, or you want to quit your job and start something of your own, but you're not able to do it. So pause, check, why am I not able to do it? What is really happening here? Is there something from the past which is connected here? So stopping and pausing and reflecting and asking ourselves questions will really help to kind of become aware if there are any patterns, and especially related to emotions. Like you're continuously even changing partners, you're not able to feel safe in somebody's presence, or you're feeling triggered by certain events happening in your life or certain people. So I think these are some spaces where you can look at to begin with. And if you seek professional help, that will be more useful, because professionals are trained
Yeah.
to guide you in that process.
Yeah.
So what will happen is this process will kind of speed up. Yeah.
Yes.
So with your own awareness, with your own questioning, maybe you may take years to kind of figure it out, because again, like I said, it's subjective.
Yeah.
You don't know how each one of us is processing it. So
Yeah.
when you have somebody who is trained in this, they will be able to see it from a different angle, and they'll be able to show you as to where
Yeah.
exactly it happened. They'll be able to explain it to you, uncover that for you, question, and will allow you to disrupt that pattern for you.
Yeah, yeah, so powerful. It's almost like, when you were saying this, it brought me a memory that when I was, in that process of healing and, a particular part of my life, it was very difficult because I'll go with the intention to heal, but I'll be consumed by the emotion so much that it would be so difficult for me to focus on, to objectively question and, really understand those things. However, I do feel that I had the gift of time, because of the lockdown and everything. But so many of us do not have the time as well to really sit with us, and we live on an autopilot, especially people who are in corporate jobs. I think just waking up and rushing to office and then coming back and then finally feeling
The
that
deadlines.
yeah, exactly, deadlines, and then finally feeling that okay, this is the time, and just then doing whatever that you want to do as feeling, so that you
Netflix
get
and
that
chill.
so that you get that sense of control over your life, where you feel that okay, I'm doing something which I want to do. So I think a lot of us might not have that time also to really heal from all of this. And in that process, what happens, we keep living through those traumatic experiences, and we keep manifesting them in the outside reality for us. So I think getting a professional on board is a very good way of keeping yourself accountable and to get that higher perspective. When you're living our reality, it's almost like a camera, like a normal camera, right? But if we have somebody who has been through the process, it's like a drone camera. So that person can view
Yeah.
everything and can tell you, right? But
Yeah.
but if you go with your own eyes, it's just your like normal vision, right? And you will
Yeah.
not be able to get that higher perspective. So I think it's
Yeah.
very important for us
So
dedicate that time.
yeah. So even having a professional, like a very beautiful thing you spoke about, the drone and the normal camera. So it's also like you're going to visit a new country or a new city, and you don't know anything about that area. You just have a map, and you just know that these are some spots that you can go and see, but you really don't know anything about that space. You don't know anything about those spots or historical places. So when
Yeah,
you have a guide who is taking you through there, okay, so who
yeah,
really knows how to navigate through that space, and who's taking you there, and who is giving you the right information, who's giving you like, this is a good space to be in, and they're giving you all those historical details and everything, and it just becomes so much easier for you, right? So you can
yeah,
enjoy that place, you can listen to those stories, you can feel happy about getting connected to that new city,
yeah,
new place, and
yeah,
all of that. So
yeah,
so I look at a therapist as the prefrontal cortex, okay, that part of your brain which is kind of helping you to decide, to kind of navigate through things, to kind of make choices. So a therapist or a coach comes in like that, yeah, because
yeah.
you're so clouded by your own emotions and so many things that have happened to you, and all the emotional residues that you're carrying within yourself,
Yes.
that your thinking is clouded, that you're not able
Yeah.
to think clearly. so
Yes.
so so that therapist is like a lighthouse showing you that
Yeah.
light, like, boss, this is the path, I'm
Path.
walking with you, and you
Yes.
can go ahead, it is safe,
Yes.
and
Yes.
making it safe for you and taking you through that
Yeah.
journey. So
Yeah.
that's where the professional comes in.
Yes. So I'm just curious, if you feel like comfortable sharing this, then what exactly? So you're a coach and you take clients from, point A to
Mm-hmm.
point B in your
Mm-hmm.
personal journey.
Mm-hmm.
So what, like for people to understand that, what does a coaching call look like? What happens in a coaching
Mm-hmm.
call? Like I know it's very
Mm-hmm.
different and it varies a lot, but still to give
Yeah.
a general idea to the audience.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what happens in a coaching call? Okay, so there are two different areas of coaching calls that I do. One is wherein you have the 30-minute discovery call with me. So I have a Google form, I'll send that to you, and it has a series of questions, and you just write about it as detailed as possible. So it's the Google form mainly talks about what are some of the emotions that you're facing right now, what are some of the challenges that you're facing, and what would you want to work on. Okay, so most of the times the emotions people are going through comes across as anger, anxiety. Especially in the last 1.5 years, it's been anxiety, it's been
Anxiety.
sadness, it's been depression, it's been that uncertainty as to what is going to happen, related to health, related to jobs, related to studies, and all of that. So these have been some of the emotions. So I kind of understand from where the emotion is coming, like, okay, so if you're feeling anxious, what is it that you're anxious about, what is really happening? So if you're angry, in what context are you angry with? Is there any person with whom you're angry? So is it yourself or somebody else? Any situation? I try to understand what's happening in your life also, yeah,
Okay.
because it's very important. Many a times we think that it's only us who is behaving in a particular way, and we
Yeah.
kind of shame ourselves for feeling those feelings or for reacting in a particular way.
Yeah.
However, our environment is also influencing us, is also
Absolutely.
contributing in that behavior, yeah, and that is something we miss out on, that is something that we don't pay attention to. So I kind of ask them what's happening in their lives. Okay, so then some of them will tell that somebody passed away, or they moved houses, or their parents divorced. So a lot of events are happening in your life, right? So maybe you lost a job, or maybe you've got a new job which you're not prepared for, or maybe it's your first job, or maybe you're trying to get a job since many months and you haven't figured out. So there may be many challenges or many things that are many events or situations that are happening in your life. So I try to understand that, and then we kind of figure out how many sessions we would require, or so I start with like minimum 3 sessions. That's something I kind of think that at least that much is
That's
important.
right.
So
Yeah.
3 sessions, yeah, it's required. So 3 sessions is what we begin with. And so mostly in the first session, we discuss what are the outcomes, what is it that they want. Because like I said, what I do is not the traditional counseling wherein you just went out and just keep talking about your problems and I'm just giving you a space to listen. No, this is not that. This is a higher version of that. Yeah, that also helps in the beginning. That is a very beautiful thing to begin with, because if you don't have anybody with whom you feel safe to talk about your emotions or
Yeah.
problems, then that's a beautiful way to begin your journey, wherein you kind of vent everything out, wherein the counselor gives you some exercises, journaling prompts or something like that, and you're like kind of venting it out fully. So that is a good space to begin. What I do is a little higher level and a little deeper level work. So here we kind of, the first session itself, we talk about outcomes. What are your outcomes? What is it that you want at the end of the 3 coaching sessions? What is it that you want to work with? And then we specifically focus on certain emotions that are coming back again and again. And then we kind of go back as to from where do these emotions come?
Yeah.
What happened? Yeah, because there has to be something that happened, any significant event that happened around which you felt this emotion the first time, and then you didn't process it. It was just kept like that. It's so if I were to give you an example, like if suppose you're boiling milk and that milk gets spoiled, okay, it's spoiled, and then you're just keeping that pot aside and you're like, okay, I'll throw it later, I'll do it later, now I don't have time, I'll do it later, and you're just keeping it like that, I'll do it later, and then you don't throw that milk, or you don't use it to make a sweet or make paneer out of it. You're not using it and you're just keeping it like that. What's going to happen? It's going to stink. Yeah.
Yes.
It's just going to stay there, and then after a few days you're like, oh, it's still there, I forgot to throw it, and then like, okay, now it will stink, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. So again, you are now overwhelmed of opening that pot and cleaning it, that now you're again just, okay, let it be there, I'll do it tomorrow. But somewhere you know that it's still there and you have not dealt with it. Yeah. And it's going to just keep on piling up. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's what we have done with our emotions.
Yeah.
So there may have been some past events, some significant events in your life that happened at some point in your life, which created certain emotional responses in you, which you didn't know how to process, which you didn't know how to work with. Yeah, because we are not taught that, right?
Yeah.
Let us accept that nobody has been given this training. Yeah, we have to just go with the flow, we have to just do it. We have to just learn to do it. I mean, like, how do we do that if we are not learning it properly? Yeah. So we have not dealt with these emotions, and then those emotions are like piling up. Yeah. And then it's like now your body is not able to handle it somewhere. Yeah. So then it comes out also as psychosomatic diseases. Yeah.
Yes.
Something that is very, very challenging. Like your blood reports may be normal, everything may be normal, and yet you have a certain disease. Yeah. So then why is that happening? So all these things are related to the emotions which are left unprocessed. So then we go back, we track back where these emotions came from, and then I use a lot of tools. Like I use cognitive behavioral therapy, I use trauma-based cognitive behavioral therapy, then neuro-linguistic programming, then narrative therapy, and I use a lot of journaling prompts, and we kind of work through those emotions, and there is like specific practice and tool as to how to process, how to release these emotions and work with them. So that's what we do. And then finally we talk about what is it. So once the emotional processing is all done, the outcome is, so the results that clients experience is mainly the first thing that they will experience is that they are able to sleep better. Yeah, this is the most common thing that I have heard from my clients, that they would say, oh my god, I never slept so deeply in ages, and I feel so nice to have slept so deeply. So that is one thing, because now your neurology is feeling so safe. Neurology is like, it's like, wow, I feel so relaxed. So you kind of experience that deep sleep. Then there is clearer thinking. So now that you've processed the emotions, you are in a much clearer headspace to think about your career, think about your relationship, think about some important decisions that you want to make in your life. Yeah. So then that happens, and then I think it's a kind of a generative change, generative transformation that happens, and then
Yeah.
suddenly they notice that the people around them are also changing, and then they're
Yes.
like, Gayatri, I never worked on this, but then how did this happen?
Yeah.
Because you kind of, because people think that this is only this thing, but it is
Yeah.
not only this thing. When you work on one particular emotion or one particular area, it is going to create that ripple effect in different
Yeah.
areas of your life.
Yeah.
So then slowly their relationship starts becoming better. They kind of they become more healthier. So they become healthier. So they notice that there is no fatigue in their body. They're able to be more energetic and work through things and all of that. So these are all byproducts once we work with our emotional stuff and we kind of clear these baggages and process them. Because you've been carrying it since so many years now.
Yes.
So it's important that you process, so that milk is milk is still there. Okay. So you have to kind of process it now, and now it's kind of overwhelming for you to do it all alone. And that's why, as a coach, I step in to hold your hand, to kind of tell you that it's okay. I'm here. And I am not working with you as an expert. That's something I always tell my clients. I am not somebody who is an expert. I am a work in progress, just like you. I am also working with my emotions, because every day new things keep happening. So those things are going to give you certain emotional responses. So we all are a work in progress. What I am doing is I am walking with you as a fellow human who has certain knowledge, who has certain practices and tools. So I'm going to share them with you, and I'm going to walk with you in this journey. So I am not some expert who has figured it out and who has it everything perfect. No, I am not that person. I am a work in progress. I'm walking with you in this journey, and together we will figure it out.
All the experts, they become expert just like that. This is the guys, this is the sign. So sometimes we think that expert is a person who just knows everything and everything, a know-it-all, right? But expert is a person who is really passionate about their subject and who really believes that they are always work in progress. Right, guys, this is the sign. So now you know. I will not say expert, but now you know already.
That's kind of you. That's so kind of you, Surbhi.
No, genuinely I feel that this is how. So this philosophy even I follow till date. I in fact don't even like the word client. I somehow want to change that word and make it something else, but I don't have a better word as of now. But
we will brainstorm on that.
We'll brainstorm surely, because I always feel that it's just that we are two people who have I have probably experienced few things earlier and have processed them little earlier, and the other person might have processed something else a little earlier than me, and we both share our experiences and help each other evolve. And I think even in the coaching process myself, I learned so much. I heal so much through the process of coaching, that it's just mind-blowing. To me, my clients are so precious, because I always feel that they give me so much more than just more than just allowing me to work, do what I love. They just give me the gift of healing myself through them, right? And it's such a beautiful process, and it's a gift that we've received to be able to do this work and impact lives. And you've said so many beautiful things, and you share so many beautiful things on your Instagram. And as you said that you share a lot of modalities with people, but one thing that always stands out for me is that you always bring dance as a way of healing. And I just absolutely love it, because it's something which I am still exploring. I've not yet explored it fully, so I'd love to hear from you on that. How dance helps.
Wow. You have touched on a point, on a topic which I love talking about so much. We can do an entire podcast on that, I think.
We can.
Okay. So before I answer this question, just kind of adding on to that, what you said, that our clients kind of teach us so much. In this process of coaching, I think in the last 10 years, I think I have become kinder. I have become compassionate with myself. I kind of it's a very different space now. It's like I look at people and I'm like, okay, so if somebody's shouting at me, I'm like, okay, so what's really happening there?
Yeah.
Rather than just looking at
Oh.
them, I'm like, oh, how can they shout at me? Why are they showing their anger on me? I am now just standing there and witnessing that emotional outburst and wondering, what is it that's hurting them right now? What is really happening behind that behavior?
So powerful.
So yeah, and I think this shift has happened in me only because of this journey. Yeah, and I have become a better parent in this entire process, because I started off my work by working with teenagers, with children and teenagers. Yeah, so I got a lot of perspectives from children and teens about how their parents behave with them. And in that process, I became a better parent. I'm like, okay, fine. So this 13-year-old told me this is how he perceives when his mother is telling this. So I'm like, okay, so the next time I am interacting with my daughter, I am more conscious. I'm like, okay, so how do I create that space for my daughter? How do I converse with her? So this entire last 10 years, this journey has made me such a better person. And the way I see things, the way I experience, the way I show up in relationships, everything has shifted. And all this is because of my clients. All this is because of this journey of being a coach. So this profession, I would not call this a profession. I'll say this is my dharma. This is my dharma.
Yes. I've been internalizing that so much. Just few days back I was thinking about dharma, and how it just extends, as you said, it's not your profession, so it extends like it's more than your profession, because it's a sense of who you are. It's truly who you are from the core of that's how you were created by the creator, right? That this is your job and this is how you'll see the world. It's the unique perspective that which we are born, and the way we see things, the way we experience, the way we share things. And I just love you for that, for saying dharma. It just made me so happy, because it shows, as I said, that how passionate Gayatri is about her work, and how she just not, she learns every day. I can say that for sure. Sometimes through books, sometimes through other things, but mostly with her own experience, and how she is just, when she speaks about her experiences, and the way she gives examples, something which is very, very evident and clear to me is that she lives what she does. She walks the talk, like she's living her truth, and that is why she's sharing that with you with so much of authenticity. And only a person who has seen those things within herself, like I've seen that how I healed, and what kind of things that I went through. And when I hear you speak, I could see clearly that how clear you are, how much of clarity you have around every thing that you're speaking about, and it just really touches my soul. So thank you so much for being here, and I'd love to know about dance, because I'm curious.
Yes. So I think dance was my main coping mechanism in childhood.
Oh wow.
That was my coping mechanism as a childhood. So I remember episodes wherein my dad would hit me out of his unconscious patterns, obviously, not that he really wanted to hurt me or anything. So when those experiences would happen, the only way I knew how to cope with that as a 5-year-old, as a 6-year-old, was to move my body, was to dance. That's how I knew. And I remember we had this Godrej cupboard in our house, and it had one mirror, and it was like a full-length mirror that we had. And my dad would go to office, my elder sister would go to school, and I'll be alone at home, and I would just look into that mirror and dance. That's it. That's what I would do. And I would just move my body. And I think that kind of helped me a lot as a child to process those emotions which I couldn't talk to people or which I couldn't share with anybody. Dance and writing and reading has been with me since childhood. So dance was how I initially started expressing myself, expressing those emotions. I would just jump. I would just do everything that I felt after a verbally abusive episode or a physical abuse episode. I would just do that, and then slowly it emerged into reading and writing as well. So dance has always been my go-to tool. And and I've always taken up opportunities wherever I could just dance. I would just go and dance. I didn't kind of professionally learn or something. The last 4-5 years I was learning Kathak. I did go to learn Kathak, and I had some beautiful experiences performing on stage, and especially performing on Krishna bhajans and all. It was really beautiful and
Yeah.
grounding for me. It's a fascinating experience. Then I think work kind of took over, and I was like, no, this is my dharma and I want to spend more time doing this. So I kind of stopped my Kathak classes, but dance kept going here and there. In the last 1.5 years, I think I would say I had stopped dancing. I wasn't moving much. I wasn't dancing so much. And with the recent health diagnosis and everything, I kind of like went back to dance again, and I was like, no, now I want to consciously practice it again. So that's why you're seeing a lot of dance reels on
Reels.
Instagram
Yes.
these days.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm just moving again. So what happens is, why is movement important? Most of us look at exercise as a punishment, like
Yeah.
something that you're a pain that you're inflicting to your body, and you're like, oh, I don't want to do exercise, I don't want to do that. So maybe you change that word. Maybe you don't use exercise, and maybe you use the word movement. And here's why movement is important. Because your body stores the emotions. Your body is storing the emotions. So if you have ever seen an animal, especially dogs or any animals, if you have pets at home, you will notice that when they wake up, they kind of shake their bodies. They kind of stretch and they kind of shake their bodies.
Yeah.
So it's so important for us humans also to do that, because we are constantly experiencing stress in many different ways. We are
Yeah.
unconscious. We really don't know that we are experiencing stress. So if we consciously bring in some kind of movement in our day, and that can be anything that you like. Yeah, so if you like gym, please go and join a gym. If you like aerobics, go there. If you like dance, take up dance. If it's Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, whatever it is for you, whatever it is that you will be doing for a longer period of time, whatever it is that is sustainable for you. Or you can try different stuff. Like right now I've joined yoga also, and I'm doing strength training also. So I have different modalities again that I'm doing, because I'm somebody who tends to get bored with one kind of activity, especially when I'm moving or when I'm working out. So I tend to like different varieties of movement activities. So choose something that is sustainable, that you will be doing for a longer period of time, and bring in that movement. Trust me, you will feel really better. I'm not telling that all your problems will go away. However, you will be in a better space to process the emotions. You'll be in a better space to work with it, or your body will kind of feel a little bit ease when you're doing that.
Yeah.
So bring in some kind of movement, because your body stores those emotions. So it's important to release them through movement. And dance is like the most easiest way to do that. So it's not that you're performing somewhere or you're doing it for somebody. It can be just for yourself in your room. Close it and just put some music and move. That's it. You don't need to show it to anybody.
Yes, absolutely. I think for me, like how it helps me is that it helps me to connect with my intuition. Like I've always realized. So what I do, anytime I feel like, I need to connect back to my body and really drop into my body. What I do is I'll play some very random music which I've never heard before, right?
Okay.
And I'll just close my eyes and I'll start moving according to the beats of the the music, and I will and I will let my body take the it takes what do I say, like let my body decide how it wants to move. So I'll really let my
flow.
Yeah, I'll just flow. And I really realized that the body knows that where does it need movement. I'd often see myself stretching, and I never thought that I'd do that. But suddenly my body takes the position of a guide, and it starts moving, and it starts really expressing itself. It almost feels like the body is healing, and I'm just like, I've started dancing, almost talking to you, right? So it almost feels like that the body knows how
the body
it wants
knows.
Yeah, exactly, how it wants to release. It just I give it that time and that space to really release everything from the body. Something which I realized from my own healing journey was that how lighter I felt in my body. So
Ah.
even till date, for me to know anything is right or wrong, I'd go back into my body. I'll feel and check my body, how am I
Hmm.
feeling? And if there's a, I always use this word deep resonance. I've always keep saying
Hmm.
deep resonance. It's because, anything I know that it's right and it's for me. I kind of feel it in my heart. I know
Hmm.
it from the place of my heart. I can feel it that this from this place, if it's coming, it's right. It's right. It
Hmm.
feels right. And I don't have to use my like my logical mind to understand and
Hmm.
process it, but I understand it through my body. So I think
Yeah.
movement, as you said, and dance especially as a practice, can help you relieve so much of emotions, and at the same time connect back to the inner
Yes.
voice.
Yeah.
To really drop into our body. We are so much into the mind. We are always thinking, always in the thought. We might
Yeah.
be present here, but we are always in the head, right? And using the body to again kind of be in the present moment is the best way and the easiest way, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Drop
To
in the
ground
present.
yourself.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
ground yourself. Exactly.
And body has this innate intelligence. There is this wisdom that you're
Yeah.
carrying in your body right
Yeah.
from the time you were born.
Yes.
How else did you learn to walk? How
Yeah.
else did you learn to walk? There was no school which taught how to walk, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You learned
Exactly.
it by yourself. You learned
Yes.
2 to 3 languages by the time you were 2 or 3 years old. You were
Yes.
able to
Yes.
speak that so fluently. How did that happen?
Yes. Yes.
How did your body learn to walk, to jump, to do all those things? So there
Yes.
is this innate intelligence, this wisdom within you.
Yeah.
And when you're doing any kind of movement, it's important to tap into that wisdom. It's important to tap into it, whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's important that you're consciously doing that practice.
Yes.
And that's why I think yoga or dance or this animal flow, all these kind of things really
Yeah.
help. Because
Yes.
you are in that moment and you're fully being with, okay, so I'm being aware of what's happening and
Yeah.
what are the sensations in my body and all of that.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, love it. So, this is my final question before we begin the
Okay.
spontaneous five, right?
You have something special for me.
Yeah, yes. So I'll ask you very like rapid. It's almost like a rapid fire, but not so
Okay.
rapid because it's deep conversations only. So I'm not going to ask you one-liners, right? But before that,
Yes.
I just want to ask you that are there any misconceptions that you would want to clear for the people about healing? Because I feel that a lot of us feel that once I will be healed, I will become this person, or I will not have any emotions, or I will not feel this and that. So I just want you to
Yeah.
give your 2 cents on that.
You already told what the misconceptions are. Yeah, it is that, yes. So even when I began my journey, I had that thought process that
Yeah.
I will become this person who never gets angry, who never gets sad, who will never cry, who will always be productive, always energetic, and all those stuff. And to confess, I am none of that. So I have my moments. The thing is, when you are in the path of healing, the time frame it's kind of quick.
Yeah.
So like now, if I'm experiencing sadness, I will become okay with experiencing it. I will not
Yeah.
fight that feeling. I'll become okay with that, and I am now in a space to understand from where it is coming and to process it in a way that I am able to do the other things in my life.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So earlier, if I had a sadness episode or an episode where I'm getting anxious, I will just stay there and I will project it on others through
Yeah.
my words or through my behavior or through whatever I'm doing. Now it's not like that. Now if I'm experiencing a moment of anxiety or uncertainty, I'll sit with it, I'll process it. I'll tell my family that yes, I need some time, give me that time, I'll be back, and then I come back. So I think there is this better, I've learned to hold space for myself and for others through healing. That is something that I've learned to do now.
Yes.
And the other misconception is that healing will happen in a period and then you're done. It's not like that. Like we began the conversation like that, right? Because there is one thing that you cleared and then you are like, I'm done, and then something else comes up. So it's a continuous process. It's Kaizen. I really love that word, Kaizen.
Yes.
So it's a continuous improving, continuous process that's happening. So you clear one layer, there is another layer that comes up, and then there is another layer that comes up.
Yes.
I think it's important to when you're in this healing journey, what's really helped me, I would say, is to have a strong community of people. So to kind of build my own tribe, whom I can reach out to, whom I can go back to and have the conversations and sit with them and maybe just cry, or maybe just kind of do any of that which I cannot do with my normal people, with my friends or with my family, which I cannot do. And it's important to have that space, that safe space for you. I think that's quite important, because our family members or our friends, they are having their own issues. They are having their own stuff going on, right? So one thing I want to tell everybody in the audience who's listening to this is, if you feel that your family is not understanding you, or if your friends are not giving time to you, or they are not understanding you, maybe you need to figure out wherein you can go, wherein you can have a community, a space wherein you can open up to people who really understand it, who have that mental space to kind of listen to your challenges, who are trained or who have some kind of similar experiences, so who can relate to you in a better way. So I think we need to figure out a space like that. We need to open up and we need to connect to more people, talk about our stories, talk about our challenges, so that we are able to build that tribe for ourselves, where we can go, where we can connect. So tomorrow I want to talk anything about healing, I know I can connect to Surbhi, I know I can message her on Instagram or talk to her and have a conversation, which maybe I cannot do with my elder sister. So it's very important for all of us to have that space. I think that really helps when you are in the healing journey. So you don't feel left out. You feel that there is somebody, I am not alone, and you're able to do that. So that is something. And each one of us has our own time. So it's not something that you can force yourself, like, okay, she started her healing journey, so I should also start. No, it doesn't work that way. Okay, it doesn't work that way. So each one of us will have our own time, will have our own stuff. So it's important that you consciously begin that journey. And it's not going to be a straight line. There are going to be moments when you feel that, why did I come into this? Okay, so healing, I look at it as like cleaning your wardrobe. Okay, so you're like looking at your wardrobe and you're like, okay, I want to clean it, and you're removing everything, and then you are suddenly into this pile of clothes and things, and you're like, oh my god, I have so many things. And then you're like sorting, and you're just kind of thinking what to keep, what not to keep, and you're like kind of doing all of that. And then you have to do it again after a few months.
Exactly.
because you've brought new stuff, because you again not kept things properly. So it's like doing that. So till the time you're alive, I think healing is a continuous process. It's going to keep going. So what really helps is having a community, having somebody who is with you through that healing process, so you're able to navigate through it with ease, with little bit ease, I think.
And as you rightly said, just to have that kind of kind of support, even when you see somebody else going through their own journey, it somewhere comforts you, and it gives you that sense that you're not alone. So you might not be actually taking help from each other, but just the fact that somebody is walking the same path as you. And in the process, I think, as we began the podcast by the note that how all of these things are gifts, how we can milk, we can make paneer out of that milk, right? How we can utilize it to making paneer. But the only thing is that once you have a community and you start sharing, you realize that how much your healing process fastens, right? It's almost on steroids, right? You will be amazed like how fast everything is happening, and what is it, right? So I think to have a community and to share your learnings, to share your experiences, and be honest, about the days when you feel low. Say that you're low, because it allows people to
Yeah.
feel that as well. All of us are on the journey, all of us doubt ourselves, all of us doubt our own process, at some point. And you speaking about that in that moment will help the other person understand that, hey, we are all on the same path.
Yeah.
So I think having a community is a must. And to find that community, you can find it or you can build it. The choice is yours,
Yes.
right?
Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just hope that through this podcast, you got an insight and the motivation to begin your healing journey, because that's what we hope and pray for you. Because both of us have understood this one thing, that how impactful it is in our lives and how beautifully it changes everything about our life. As Gayatri said, you might want to change your career, you might get better clarity for your career, for
Yes.
your relationships, how you want to show up for your people, right? Everything changes. And Gayatri said that she became a better parent because of her healing journey and her healing journey with the clients, how she was evolving with the clients. So I think um, it's an evolving process. It's a never ending
Yes.
process, but that's the beauty of life. Imagine coming, somebody telling you that, okay, this is it, life is over, it's like a game, like you do this and it will end. It will be heartbreaking, it will not be an interesting ride to go on. It's only because it keeps going on and on and on, it feels that we have something to look forward to, right? And to experience your own growth and to see yourself evolving is one of the best gifts that you can give yourself
Yes.
and to your own people as well,
Yeah.
right? So with that, we'll enter into the rapid fire. And I like to shoot the first question on you. So the first is, your biggest mistake in your healing journey that you wish people do not make.
Okay. Wow, that's an interesting question. Okay, so one of the mistakes I would say is having this image of how I should look like when I'm healed, or how the healing process should be. So that is something I started off with. So I think, please do not keep those things, like please
Yeah.
do not keep that map, or like as to how I should be when I heal, or how things should be when I heal.
Yes.
Instead, just become curious, like that child. Okay, what is behind that sofa? I want to see, I want to just go there.
Yes.
So just becoming curious about your brain, curious about your patterns, curious about your emotions, and just going all out there with that curiosity, with that interest, with that
Yes.
exploring attitude. I think that will really help, because then you have zero expectations and you're just going in there, knowing nothing and just exploring. And then in that process, uncovering something so beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's my favorite ways to be. I think I'm the happiest with me and my journal, because I go with that attitude of exploration. I really want to know myself, and I really dig deep and ask myself those questions. And when I get the revelation, I'm like, wow. I'm like, I'm blown away. I'm completely amazed, and I'm so happy. And I think that's my dharma, to really deeply understand myself, channel that kind of realizations, share that with people, because I'm the happiest when I'm doing it. When I'm doing my shadow work, I'm literally crying, but I'm so happy within myself that I'm finally.
I hear you, Surbhi.
Yeah.
When you say that.
So it makes me so happy, to just get into my dark shadows and just figuring that out, knowing myself better. Okay, so the second one is that your greatest lesson, the biggest takeaway that you would want to share with people from your journey.
Healing is your responsibility. Healing is your responsibility for your generations to come.
Yeah.
So you are the ancestor for the generations that are coming in, right? So when you become the cycle breaker, when you start to heal yourself, when you start to question the conditioning and disrupt these patterns, it's a gift that you're giving for the upcoming generations.
Yes.
So I think that's my biggest realization.
You're so good. You're so good at what you do. I'm amazed. Okay.
I think it's all the work that I've been doing.
Absolutely, 100%. That is why your answers are so crisp, but so deep. Like we can do a whole podcast on just this one statement that healing is your responsibility.
Yes,
Like it's
yes,
so
yes.
powerful, it's so potent, and that statement itself comes like I can understand the kind of experience and the kind of backstory that that
Yeah,
realization in your personal life must have had.
because
So
for many years I was just blaming others. I was just
yes,
blaming others. I was
yes,
just blaming my parents for the way they were. I was just blaming my stars. I was just blaming my fate. And
yes,
that blame didn't take me anywhere. It didn't
yes,
take me anywhere.
yes,
So when you are 30, in your 30s or in your 40s, you cannot blaming your childhood experiences. You
yes,
cannot just keep doing that. Okay, it
no,
happened, yes, and you may have experienced something very severe. Okay,
yeah,
and I'm sorry to hear about that.
yeah,
And then what are you going to do about it?
yeah,
Okay, that
yeah,
happened. What are you going to do about it?
yes,
Because when you are healing, there is something shifting in the consciousness. There is something
yeah,
shifting in the community also when you're working on yourself. Yeah.
yes,
So you are not just you. We are a part of this system. So I
yes,
believe healing is our responsibility, and
yeah.
each one of us should begin that and work on that because it's a gift for our generations.
Yes, so happy to hear that. All right. The third one is your top resources, something like your books, podcasts that you listen to that you would like to share with the audience, which assist them in their healing journey.
Okay, so one of the books that I would recommend is Emotional Agility by Susan David, I think. Yeah. So it's a beautiful book wherein you can understand about your emotions. It's a wonderful book, very simply written, and it's like very easy to understand. So that's an amazing book. There is this another book, Feel Better Fast, I think. I mean, there are lots of books. If you just asked me a topic that we can do a different podcast, maybe I can give you a list of books
Yeah.
and you can kind of share it in the link
Yes.
later.
Yes.
So books related to your brain, Biology of Belief by Dr. Bruce Lipton. That is again one of the books that kind of opens up this topic about beliefs and how our realities are shaped and perceptions are there. That is another book that I really love. Then there is this book by I think Dr. Maxwell Maltz. It is called Psycho-Cybernetics. That is also very beautifully written book that kind of talks about your mental space and everything. So Psycho-Cybernetics. Then there is one book by Dr. Maxwell Maltz solely. It's called The Psychology of Self-Image, I think. That is also a beautiful book wherein he talks about how do we see ourselves and how that matters in every area of our life.
Yes.
So these are few books that come to my mind right now when you ask.
Yeah.
And then there are many books. Like I think I've read over like 200-300 books in the last 10 years, I think, diving deep into neurology, neuroscience, and all these concepts. And they are fascinating. They are not
Yes.
your traditional self-help books. They are
Yes.
not the quick fixes. They are actually understanding about your brain. There
Yes.
is one book called as When the Body Says No by, I think, Dr. I forgot how to pronounce his name. I don't know. Gaber Mate, I think. Yeah. So he says When the Body Says No. It's a beautiful book about psychosomatic diseases and how those diseases come into the body and all of that. So that's again a beautiful book. Yeah.
So guys, I will put the link of for all these books in the description, and any book which Gayatri recommends furthermore after the podcast, I will surely add them to the description, because I understand something which I personally realized in my journey is that knowledge is power. Like something which I always say even to my clients is that no matter what I am telling you, go and do your research. I'll tell you the book, read it, because I think that healing happens, or your conviction for healing or your commitment towards healing happens when you are convinced, when you understand what's happening, when you are involved in the process as much as the coach is involved, right? So I think to make sure that your intellect is convinced about what you're doing, read, do the research,
Yes,
so
yes.
I
Powerful.
strongly believe that knowledge is power. So thank you so much for sharing your resources. Last one is that if there is one message that you had to give to the world the whole world. Yeah, like this is your last opportunity to speak to the whole world at once. What would it be?
Oh my God. You know, that wouldn't be just one sentence.
Yeah. Okay, you can go on.
Okay, so what do I want to tell? I want to tell this. I mean, this is something I deeply believe in, that somewhere we have all reduced ourselves to these labels. So the labels like I am a shy person, I am an arrogant person, or I am a short-tempered person, or I am an overthinker, or I'm an anxious person. So we have kind of brought into these boxes, and we have kept ourselves into these labels. I think it's time we kind of went out there into the wild.
Yeah.
I think it's time out there we realize that we are not just this one disease, or we are not just this one particular behavior, because these labels that we are putting on ourselves are limiting us in some way.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you say that I am an overthinker or I am a shy person,
Yeah.
you are just putting yourself into that limited space.
Yes.
Wherein you are not just that, you are beyond
Absolutely.
that, you are more than that, you have so much more to offer to this world, right?
Absolutely.
So I want each one of you, if this was my last message for all of you, I would just say that question these labels, like become a scientist, question the labels, question the things, question the conditionings. Don't stop questioning, question it. I tell my clients also, don't just believe everything I tell you, okay? So if I'm telling you, you question me, okay? Don't just nod your head and say, okay, Gayatri, don't do that. Ask me, question me, because when you're questioning, you're progressing, you're getting new knowledge, and you're progressing. And I believe life is nothing but progress. You keep progressing, and that's how it is. It's a beautiful journey.
Yeah.
So just walk, take so many people that you can, and walk and share your gifts with the world, and question, and just be curious. Be curious as to what is happening, and do the things that are useful for the community, not just yourself, because the world needs more people like that. So do things which are useful for the community.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it.
This is so powerful. I think I absolutely love everything that you said. Become a scientist. Love that. Because I always feel that why are scientists only people are considered as scientists who are just working in laboratory and doing all of those things. I personally feel that all of us who are investigating, especially in the Vedic culture. I love Vedic culture because people who were exploring themselves were called rishis, right? And rishis were scientists, and scientists of their exploration within themselves, and then associating with the universe and the cosmos and God, right? So I think all of us have that potential to be scientists, and as Gayatri said, questioning is the key. And especially, I see that we take these quizzes and we try and understand the personality types and all of that, and I think it's so limiting. And just apart from that, also we consider ourselves, okay, I am a lawyer. If we give our introduction, I'm a lawyer, I'm a teacher, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, and all of that just kind of puts you in a box. This is it, and you see yourself through that perspective, through that belief, and then it's just so limiting to the human potential. So I think this is a very powerful message to give out to the world. So thank you so much for sharing that. One last question: when are you coming back on the podcast?
Very soon when you invite, and I think now we'll ask the audience what do they want us to talk about, and let them come to us, and I think we'll get back again, because I am loving this conversation, because there's so much I am learning by being with you, and as I hear you, as I reflect, and as I sense you, it's just so much more. It's not just a podcast, it is something beyond that.
Thank you so much. It was such an honor, a pleasure, and a delight, all of it, talking to you, because it's just that you and I think with you I have that deep resonance within my heart, absolutely, like, and that's what I love about my work, that I get to talk to people like yourself, who are so authentically living the life, living their truth and really being themselves, really evolving, really growing. So thank you so much for sharing all your gifts with us today, and thank you for being you, because I know for sure that this podcast, not right now, not a 1 year from now, but years from now, will also create the same impact that it has the potential to create right now, because it's something which all of us are going through, will go through, the coming generations will also go through. It's something which is
Yeah.
so relevant, and so timeless. So
Yeah.
thank you for being on the podcast. I really hope to have you back soon, so that we can talk about so many things more, because
Yes, yes.
you're a treasure box for me, and I really want to open it up and learn and absorb as much as I can from you. So
Thank you. I'm grateful that you invited me, Surbhi. This has been such a loving experience for me, being here and talking to you about all these things and sharing my perspectives. It's beautiful to talk like this, to kind of just share whatever you have, and to have this safe space to open up. Thank you for having me here.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye.